Mr. Speaker, I move that we acknowledge the presence of the heads and the officials from the Commission on Human Rights, namely Chairman Richard Paat Palpalatok, Commissioner Monina Arevalo Zenarosa, Executive Director Jacqueline Ann Digia, Executive Director Carmelo Victor Crisanto. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
We acknowledge the family of the Commission on Human Rights. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Jocelyn C. Lim Kai Chong, Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, to answer questions on proposed budget on Commission on Human Rights.
The Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, representing the 1st District of Negros Oriental, the Honorable Representative Jocelyn C. Lim Kai Chong, is hereby recognized to begin the sponsorship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and allow me to give my opening remarks. This coming December 10, 2023, we will be celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR. Filipino statesman Carlos P. Romulo worked closely in drafting the UDHR before it was eventually adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1948. Needless to say, the Philippines has been part of a long and proud tradition of upholding human rights, especially in giving voice to small nations as well as to the weak, vulnerable, and marginalized sectors. To date, while acknowledging the contributions of the government in upholding this primary obligation to respect and protect human rights domestically, we also have the Commission on Human Rights, or the CHR, a body created under the 1987 Constitution that serves as watchdog, educator, advocate, and monitor so that the Philippine government may give life and better meaning to the aspiration of the UDHR and our very own Constitution. Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleagues, it is my honor to sponsor the budget of CHR and its attached agency, the Human Rights Violation Victims Memorial Commission, or HRVVMC. For fiscal year 2024, CHR proposed a total budget of 1.924274 billion. However, 976.36 million was the amount approved by the NEP, under the National Expenditure Program. That reflects a 49.29% decrease in their proposed budget. And when compared to CHR's 2023 budget under the GAA, the 2024 NEP budget still shows a reduction of 25.694 million, or 2.56% lower. While its attached agency, the HRVVMC's NEP for 2024 is 40.690 million, or only 67.65% of their proposed budget. Mr. Speaker, CHR plays a critical role in preserving our vibrant, albeit fragile, democracy. It is a check and balance mechanism against abuses in power. CHR primarily investigates state agents and representatives should they incur lapses and violations in their responsibilities. However, there are cases when CHR investigates violation committed by private individuals, particularly if the victims are part of the vulnerable sectors such as women, children, and the elderly. CHR's mandate, in this sense, is not just a set of principles, but a dynamic and comprehensive framework. It encompasses protection, promotion, policy, and prevention of human rights. When a country is seen as committed to human rights, it can attract foreign investments, trade partnership, and tourism. It can boost export and economic growth. Along the way, Congress has strengthened CHR by expanding its role and mandate through new laws. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, expanding the work of CHR has not resulted in the corresponding increase in the budget of CHR. Instead, a review of pieces of legislation brought about unfunded mandates. And this legislative advancement aimed at strengthening CHR's role should indeed translate into a budget that matches its responsibility. So despite these challenges, Mr. Speaker, CHR strives to provide its services through its 600 people strong workforce spread out across 16 regional and 4 sub-offices across the Philippines. CHR's persistence and commitment to its mandate has allowed them to maintain its status A accreditation with the Paris Principles. True to their mandate, CHR is indeed a commission for all. CHR ng lahat, naglilingkod, maging sino ka man. My dear colleagues, as we approach the momentous occasion of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it is time to reflect on our nation's journey towards freedom, justice, and equality. It is through the CHR that we hold ourselves accountable. The role of the CHR in our democracy cannot be understated. So in light of its expansive mandate and challenges it confronts, I implore my esteemed colleagues to consider increasing the budget of the CHR for 2024 to its original proposed budget of 1.924 billion. As for the HRVVMC, this body support will allow them to construct the Freedom Museum, a key element of Republic Act 10368, or the Human Rights, Victims' Reparation and Recognition Act. We again seek the inclusion of the special provision for the construction of the Freedom Museum for fiscal year 2024. We must implement what is protected by law, as this is the essence of our democracy. It is equally important that the victims that have been recognized in our courts and agency be given the honor and dignity. Our democracy's health and our commitment to human rights are mirrored in this budget. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I'm now ready to answer your questions.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Arlene Brosas from the Gabriela Party List for her interpellation.
The lady from Gabriela Party List, the Honorable Arlene Brosas, is recognized for her interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, Mr. Speaker. Lalong-lalo na sa CHR family, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will the sponsor yield to a few questions, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Bago po ako pumunta sa aking mga katanungan, gusto ko pong taus-pusong magpasalamat sa Commission on Human Rights sa naging tulong nila kahapon sa pagpapalaya kina Janila Castro at Jed Tamano, mga environmental defenders at tumitindig laban sa reclamation projects sa Manila Bay na dinukot at nakita na lamang sa kamay ng NTF-ELCAC at pinapalabas ng mga rebel surrenderies. Nasaksiyan po natin kung paanong pinabulaanan ng dalawa ang mga sinasabi ng NTF-ELCAC at ng 70th Infantry Battalion na sila ay mga nag-execute daw ng affidavit. Ang sinasabi ng mga bata ay under duress sila during that time at nilagay sila ng mahigit 2 linggo sa loob mismo ng kampo. So matinding torture po yung inabot ng mga bata dito. Mr. Speaker, yun Mr. Speaker, pasasalamat sa CHR dahil isa po sila sa mga nag-intercede during that time sa Plaridel, Bulacan, kahapon, kagabi in fact, na dinala namin sa Commission on Human Rights, sina Jed Tamano at Janila Castro. Now, Mr. Speaker, let me go to my questions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, nagkaroon ng pagbaba Yan nga, no, sa budget ng Commission on Human Rights mula 993 million para sa taong ito. Naging 971 million ang budget ng CHR para sa 2024. Tama po ba?
Mr. Speaker, that's correct.
Yan. Mr. Speaker, ano po yung epekto nitong budget na ito sa pagtupad ng CHR ng kanyang mandato?
Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of activities or program of the Commission that will be hit most by the cut in the budget. And one of that is the financial assistance program. With regards to the two missing activists that you just mentioned today, definitely CHR is investigating as well and helping, as you said, helping in the investigation, assessment, and evaluation of the program. True, if we have to look at the financial assistance, talagang mababa kasi from 13,750 million ngayon sa 2024 budget, naging 3.8 million na lang. Pangalawa, it will also affect the transportation costs. The lack of funds for local travels of investigators to be prompt up and visible, no, in times of need. And we also have the office supplies and materials, because with the increasing total manpower, of course, the more people you hire, the more you need equipments, furnitures, representations, mobile, security, and supplies. And we also have the training. More personnel hired means increased needs to train and orient new employees. And if you talk of rent expense, considering that CHR regional offices are not owned by the CHR themselves, but they're just renting. So with the cost of inflation and high cost of rent, talagang kukulangin yung MOOE ng CHR. And of course, they also need vehicles, Mr. Speaker. Due to the, let's say, transition from the pandemic to the normal period right now, more travels is needed to conduct investigation, evaluation, assessment on the ground. So malaki talaga yung kailangan, no, na kailangan mag-augment ng budget ng CHR.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, to our sponsor. Yung hindi lang po MOOE, no, yung maapektuhan, hindi lang sa rental ng vehicles. As I understand, mga major programs po talaga yung nawalan ng na budget cut kasi parang tama po ba, Human Rights Protection Program ang nawalan, Human Rights Promotion Program, Human Rights Policy Advisory Program, which have been running for a long time na, 'di ba? So, Mr. Speaker, ito po ay mga mahahalaga. And even po yung meron ding budget cut sa Human Rights Education Program, 'di ba? Mr. Speaker, ano to lifeblood din ito nung Commission on Human Rights at mahalaga po na itong mga ito ay mapondohan ng tama. So, Mr. Speaker, well, at the proper time, Mr. Speaker, gusto nating sabihin na kaisa tayo sa pagpapataas ng budget. Lalo na itong mga ito na mga long-standing programs ng Commission on Human Rights, Mr. Speaker. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, ang sunod ko pong tanong ay tungkol sa mga batas, no, na kasama ang CHR sa mga implementing agency. So may mga budget cut na nga sa mga program na ito, samantala sa mga batas, no, paano sinisigurado ng CHR na napopondohan yung mga batas na nakamandate sa kanya, no, na i-implement? Gusto ko lang malaman, Mr. Speaker, alin ang mga batas ang unfunded sa ngayon?
Mr. Speaker, tama po si Congresswoman Arlene with regards to many unfunded mandates. And let me cite some of the special laws that were unfunded. We have RA 9851, International Humanitarian Laws of 2009, RA 9262, the Anti-VAUSI Act of 2004, RA 11036, the Mental Health Act, RA 11166, the Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act, RA 11188, Special Protection of Children in Situation of Armed Conflict Act, RA 11479, the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, RA 9745, or the Anti-Torture Act of 2009, RA 10353, Anti-Enforced Disappearance Law of 2012, RA 11106, the Filipino Sign Language Act of 2018, the RA 9710, the Magna Carta for Women, RA 9344, the JJWC, or the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2008. We have RA 11930, the Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children and Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Material Act, RA 11596, an act prohibiting the practice of child marriage and imposing penalties for violation thereof. We have RA 11862, expanded Anti-Trafficking in Person Act of 2022, Interagency Council Against Trafficking, created pursuant to RA 9208 in relation to RA 10364, and EO 163, 2020, Series 2022, known as Institutionalizing Access to Protection Service for Refugees and Stateless Person and Asylum Seekers. And Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, dear colleague, if we add up the costs of all these unfunded mandates, it will approximately need a budget of 271,607,990 pesos.
So, Mr. Speaker, pinapakita lang sa atin ang mga datos na ito na talagang malaki yung pagkukulang sa Commission on Human Rights ng funding. So, gusto po sana natin ulitin na kung meron po tayong papataasan, paano po makaka-implement ng mga batas na ito ang CHR kung hindi natin sila bibigyan ng tamang funding para dito. Napakaraming batas po na unfunded at mahalaga po siya. Mahalaga siyang magawa ng CHR. So, thank you to our good sponsor for pag-iisa, enumerating talaga yung mga laws na involve ang CHR at ang mahalagang mandato nila dito. Yung next question ko po, Mr. Speaker, ay tungkol naman sa mga gaps or baka meron pang mga kailangang gusto o maitulong tayo kaugnay sa mandate ng CHR. Kasi nung naalala ko po, nung hinahanap o nagkakaroon tayo ng paghahanap sa mga ilang mga desaparecido hanggang ngayon, si Loy Magbanwa at kung sino-sino pa, and even si Junila at saka si Jed Tamano, nahirapan sa pagbukas ng mga kampo militar ng nakaraan. O di kaya, paminsan, ang nangyayari, hindi ibinubukas dahil binubukas naman pero certain areas lang or limited lang ang mga areas na ito. And kung ibinukas naman, nasabihan muna. So ibig sabihin nawala na kung meron mang nagtatago sa loob ng kampo ng mga nawawala na mga aktivista, nawawala na mga tao, hindi agad-agad makita ng CHR kung nasaan ang mga ito. So, how can we help, lalong-lalo na sa Kongreso, para magawa yung mandate ninyo?
Mr. Speaker, yung isa talaga na kailangan natin gawin siguro is yung sa charter. Kasi although they are, sabihin natin, an independent institution, body, or would say, but ang naka-unique lang dito, sila lang talaga yung walang charter. So maybe through legislative initiative, na siguro si good Congresswoman Arlene Brosas and myself can initiate and sponsor, siguro ito ang kailangan pa rin nating gagawin aside from the augmentation of their budget.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to our good sponsor. I would be willing, no? Kami po ay willing na makipag-ugnayan kung paano, siguro in aid of legislation, makatulong sa Commission on Human Rights. I know marami pang mga issues na pwede nating i-flesh out kaugnay dito para magawa po ng Commission on Human Rights ang kanyang mandate, no? Or very easy na maayos ang lahat ng ito, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, alam naman natin na bilyon-bilyon ang inilalaan na budget ng gobyerno, lalo na sa confidential funds. Kaya nga kanina, I won't retract, Mr. Speaker, my position regarding the confidential funds ng ilang mga ahensya na kinakailangan naman talagang ilagay sa mga nangangailangan na mga ahensya natin. Sa ngayon, may mga nangyayari na pandarahas, pandurukot sa mga human rights defenders habang marami ang pinapatayong mga malalaking infrastruktura. Samantala, yung komisyon na para sa karapatang pantao, hindi nabibigyan ng karampatang budget na kinakailangan nila. Dapat ilagay natin sa mga ganito, no, na imbis na ilagay natin yan sa confidential funds, sa budget ng Office of the President at mismo sa Office of the Vice President, pwedeng ilagay natin ito sa Commission on Human Rights nang sa gayon, mas may makabuluhang bagay pa ito na mapaggamitan. So, Mr. Speaker, sa gitna ng dumaraming kaso ng human rights violations, mahalaga po ang papel ng Commission on Human Rights. Kaya naman ang kinatawang ito, at the proper time ay susuporta sa pagpapataas ng budget ng Commission on Human Rights. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to our good sponsor.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Franz Castro from the ACT Teachers Party List.
The
For her
lady from ACT
interpellation.
Teachers Party List, the Representative Franz Castro, is recognized for her interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang umaga po muli sa ating lahat at lalong-lalo na po sa pamilya ng Commission on Human Rights, sa ating distinguished sponsor, at sa ating pong mga taong bayan. Una sa lahat, nagpapasalamat po ako dun sa in-extend na tulong ng Commission on Human Rights, Mr. Speaker, dun po sa nangyari kahapon about the enforced disappearance ni Jonila Castro at ni Jed Tamano, dun sa assistance na binigay po nila doon sa dalawang environmental defenders po. Okay? So kaisa po ako ng ating mga kasamahan dito, Mr. Speaker, para mataasan po ang budget ng Commission on Human Rights dahil napakahalaga po ng mandato nila para doon sa pangangalaga ng mga karapatang pantao ng ating mga mamamayan. So gusto ko lang pong kuhanin yung commitment ng ating Commission on Human Rights, Mr. Speaker, kaugnay dito sa talagang grossly violation ng human rights ni Jonila Castro at ni Jed Tamano. So matibay ang ebidensya na nagkaroon ng kidnapping, abduction, at nakaranas pa sila ng torture at iba pang mga mental and psychological na mga torture. Isa rin dun sa mga pwedeng yung mga anti-enforced and involuntary disappearance. Yun nga, dito po sa nangyari kay Jonila at saka kay Jed Tamano, ay talagang marami talagang mga human rights violations na nandiyan din po, nasa batas din po natin yung iba't ibang yung iba't ibang mga pwedeng maikaso. Okay? So kuha lang po ako ng commitment kung makakatulong po ang CHR sa dalawang biktima ng forced disappearances at biktima doon sa kanilang mga human rights violations, kung matutulungan po sila doon sa pagsasampa ng kaso kaugnay dito sa ating yung binanggit po nating dalawang kabataang kababaihan na environment defenders.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Definitely, CHR, actually the primary service of CHR or mandate is really to investigate state agents and representatives should there be lapses and violation in their primary obligation to protect, promote, and respect human rights. So definitely, you have the assurance coming from CHR that they will assist in the safety, accountability, and policy reforms.
Yes, salamat po doon sa commitment, Mr. Speaker. Pangalawa po, isa rin po sa mahalaga na pwedeng maging reforma po, no? Siguro kabilang na dito ang judiciary, ang Supreme Court, kaugnay dito sa tinatawag natin ng reforma kabilang doon sa mga freedom writs, yung mga writ of kalayaan, writ of amparo. So dapat po meron din po tayong initiative na magawa sa tulong po sa initiative po ng CHR kaugnay nito. Kasi ito po yung mga protection sana doon sa mga biktima ng red tagging, biktima ng iba pang mga vilification, na ito rin sana yung last resort nila para maproteksyonan yung kanilang karapatan at kanilang buhay. So maari po ba tayong makakuha ng commitment sa CHR ng inisyatiba para po in coordination, Mr. Speaker, sa ating iba pang mga related na agency, kaugnay dito sa reforma, dun sa iba't ibang mga writs na available po sa atin.
Mr. Speaker, you again have the commitment of the CHR. In fact, when we talk of human rights, it is not just the violation, but as well as human right to life, to quality education, to environmental protection, and other concerns. So definitely, Mr. Speaker, you have the commitment coming from the CHR.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. On the last note, Mr. Speaker, on the martial law victims po, no? So maganda naman po yung commitment din ng ating Commission on Human Rights as regards doon sa Section 5 of RA 10368 about the non-monetary reparation. In fact, nagpapasalamat ako, Mr. Speaker, distinguished sponsor, doon po sa letter na ibinigay po ng Commission on Human Rights about dun sa mga letter nila sa DepEd, Department of Education, kaugnay nung sana masimulan na, no, yung mga pwedeng gawin kaugnay doon sa mga non-monetary benefits ng mga biktima. So particular po sa DepEd, Mr. Speaker, yung tungkol doon sa, may nakalagay dito tungkol sa educational part. So education part. So siguro ang tanong ko na lang po, itong mga letter na ito na inaibigay natin sa Department of Education, meron na po bang commitment as to kung kailan po yung meeting or kailan yung mga consultations with the DepEd po on the part ng tungkol sa education ng martial law?
Mr. Speaker, with regards to the inquiry of the good representative, so far wala pa po. The agency have been sending, or the CHR have been sending letters, communication to DepEd and CHED. However, hanggang ngayon, wala pa ring commitment from the different agencies. So, magpa-follow up na lang po ang CHR. In fact, alam natin, under Section 5 of RA 10368, DOH, DSWD, DepEd, CHED, TESDA, and such other government agency shall render the necessary services as non-monetary reparation. So, under the law, yung government has the moral obligation talaga to provide reparations to the victims. So, I would also like na sana matulungan din ng Kongreso to operationalize these provisions and non-monetary reparation. And if we need to amend the law to make it obligatory for the concerned agencies, then we should introduce necessary amendments here in Congress.
Yes, as regards to the DepEd po, ang nakalagay po naman dun sa law, no, yung education on the curriculum about the martial law. Kasi nga ngayon may mga pagtatangka, Mr. Speaker, on the revision of the history as regards to the martial law. Ito, yung nakita natin, yung mga maaring matanggal yung salitang Marcos, dun sa diktadurang Marcos, doon sa mga textbooks ng ating mga estudyante sa elementary and high school. So yun po yung tinutukoy natin na non-monetary. Kasi mahalaga po ito. I know nagbibigay po ng talagang effort ang CHR to have consultations with the DepEd. So nakita ko nga dito yung mga sulat since November 2022 until August 14, 2023. So wala pa pong sagot. So yun po yung gusto nating matiyak kasi magkakaroon na nga po ngayon ng revision ng history.
Mr. Speaker, tama po yung observation ni Congresswoman Castro. And kung tingnan natin ang history, as mentioned by the good lady, CHR check na rin yung matatag preliminary and will do in-depth review of it. So yung history in grades 1 and 3 under the makabansa subject are already in the makabansa subjects, and for grade 4 to 10, it will be under the Aralin Panglipunan. But yung sinasabi niyo po na we're still continuing to reach out to the Department of Education. Recently, CHR also sent a letter to DepEd Undersecretary Gina Gonog, the head for curriculum and instruction, to discuss the martial law curriculum.
Yes, okay. So I hope, Mr. Speaker, makakuha din tayo ng update and development kaugnay po ng pakikipag-ugnayan natin sa DepEd, ang CHR, kaugnay doon sa ating doon sa ating history at saka doon sa curriculum ng matatag. Okay, as regards to yung tungkol sa AP. So no more further question, Mr. Speaker. Nagpapasalamat po tayo sa ating distinguished sponsor sa kanyang patiently na pagbibigay sa atin ng sagot. And can I close?
Thank you. Majority Leader.
So since there is no more members of the minority to propound questions about the budget of the Commission on Human Rights, I move to terminate the deliberation and debate, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the majority, we join the minority in the motion to terminate the interpellations on the proposed budget of the Commission of Human Rights.
There is a joint motion, both from the minority and majority, to terminate the interpellations of the proposed budget of the Commission on Human Rights. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The interpellations of the proposed budget of the Commission on Human Rights is hereby terminated.
And
Congratulations.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. And to our colleagues, we thank for the support coming from the majority for the budget or augmentation of the funds of CHR and its attached agency, the HRBVMC. Salamat po.
Thank you. Session suspended for 2 minutes to allow our members to congratulate the Commission on Human Rights and for picture taking.
the proposed budget of the Commission on Elections, Mrs.